Well, everyone, welcome to another on the record, off the record conversation with our tag. It's our second conversation about small businesses and tag. And if you're not aware, the majority of businesses globally are small and mid-sized, over 90%, and they employ more than half the population. Today, we have a tasty conversation about how a cheese shop in Spain has established its digital footprint, first with an e-commerce website, and then by dedicating efforts to digital marketing, which has quickly led to a large global following of over 100,000 people. I'm Mary Beth Snodgrass, founder and head of the pack, and I'll be facilitating the conversation today with Guillermo Esteban and Dave Charest. Guillermo is a former full-stack engineer who's become the owner of El Colmado de Escaré in northern Spain, and he'll share his journey of converting a small-town storefront into an online business, including how he's applied his tech skills to grow the business, how he became a cheese influencer on social media. And I do want to add that Guillermo and I worked together for several years, and so it's really especially great for me to be able to host him on this conversation today. And Dave is the director of small business success at Constant Contact, where he educates SMBs on how to do digital marketing and how to optimize. He's also the host of the award-winning Be a Marketer podcast, and he'll be helping to guide the conversation and share his thoughts on challenges and opportunities for SMBs as it relates to digital marketing. So to kick off, Guillermo, would you like to share with us your story of how you went from cheese to coding to cheese again?
It's a pleasure to be here and explain a little bit of my story, my kind of like short story in being a business owner, actually, because I've been a programmer almost all my life. And I worked for many years as a programmer, starting in Ireland and then into the United States in different companies and so on. As you mentioned, we've been working together for many years as well, and and it was very nice. And then due to my family and my family business that I've been working and I've been like helping for many years, I became like the business owner of that business. And yeah, and I had to kind of use my tech skills to make it a little bit more successful than what it was, because we are located in a really small village in the north of Spain called Ezcaray. And we like the village has 2,000 inhabitants. So as you can see, it's very, very small. Not that small in summer because we go up to 20,000, but as you may notice, it's not enough to run like a very successful business for the whole year. So you have to be a little bit creative and a little bit like looking for all the opportunities that the market, technology, and all different tools gives you to make your business succeed in all these competition, industry, big markets, and all of that. And I have to say that I'm not a marketer. And so I just tested many, many different things to look for the ones that actually worked.
Yeah. And I guess just building on that a little bit, my understanding is you started with creating the website where you could sell not just the cheese. I'm oversimplifying, but the artisanal kind of food. How did you then go from that to social media? And I know you have a story about how you found something that worked from marketing.
Yeah, totally. So everything started when COVID started as well, because of course my clients didn't have the opportunity to go to the village to buy their groceries and everything that they really looked for and so on that they didn't find on the big cities. So as we didn't have the opportunity to give them or to stand or to ship like any type of our products, I had to look for a system to make it possible for them to buy those groceries. So first of all, we started with WhatsApp, and all of them started to text me one by one, like asking for those products and so on. And as you may imagine, it was like quite time consuming and also difficult to manage, not only for my time, but all our work was very difficult to manage. So as I'm into technology, I looked for a solution for that, which was the website. So I started to look for kind of a small solution, which was WordPress back then. And I created something really small for the locals, for a few, for a few people, not thinking about going like to the whole Spain or anything like that. So that was the beginning. Then I realized that even though they were locals, they were my clients, they didn't know about the new products that we were going to introduce, or that they didn't remember the specific product that they were looking for. And they were into the conversation like, that product that it was located on the right side of the store and it was like with this shape and so on. So I started to send them by WhatsApp the photos of the product. So that made me think about, okay, maybe I should create a social media account to share these photos to all of them. So then they will have the opportunity to tell me, so I want this product that it's already here on the social media account. And back then it was Instagram, because first of all, one advice is you should focus only in one application you like and you are comfortable with, instead of trying to go to all of them at the same time. So back then, I was comfortable more with Instagram. Actually, TikTok wasn't even a thing in Spain anymore. So yeah, I was into Instagram. And that was the beginning of the website and the social media. And after that, I started to look to like other content creators, other accounts that they were doing not the same, because nobody was selling cheese back then. Yeah, just selling other products. Back then, it was a really big thing. What was the name of that? Drop shipping. It was a huge thing in COVID time. So that gave me like some ideas about how to talk about my products.
Yeah. And you had a little experimentation that, I mean, I think you had a good story about how you went viral and that grew your kind of global following.
Yeah, exactly. So starting with those videos and other content creators, look into their videos and taking ideas from there and so on. I totally saw that the photos didn't work that well. My clients were, well, I only received likes and comments from family and friends. So I realized that didn't go that viral or didn't go to all those people that I wanted to reach to. As I said, my intention wasn't like trying to go to millions of people or anything like that. Because first of all, we didn't have the opportunity to sell to everybody. Second of all, we didn't have the help to deal with all those logistics and or anything like that. So my intention was just to be able to reach those people that go to my village for vacation or for just a visit, tourism or something like that, and like reach them on their social media accounts. So with that intention, I changed from photos to videos. So my first video was very homemade and then very like trying to do different things. So I started to record just the product because I wasn't used to appearing on camera and so on. Well, I'm still kind of not very used to it. But anyway, it was just pointing to them, showing the product and my hands. And I was trying to explain the product, but I wasn't really good at talking to the camera either. So I repeated the same word, which was the name of the cheese and the name of the region, like 7 times in a row without not noticing it. So I uploaded it in that video. I posted it, and as soon as I posted it, I received like, I don't know, like hundreds of comments pointing out that I was repeating that word for many, many, many times, making jokes about it, making memes about it, and so on. And that made the video actually very viral because it went up to 3 million visits on the first 2 days. And I received, I think, like 20K followers just by one video, something like that. Yeah, it was something that I didn't expect at all. I have to say,
Wow.
most of those people weren't from my area, so they weren't my clients. It wasn't my need, which is something now that I recognize that I have to focus on more. But back then, it made me feel the urge, and also it gave me the energy to post more and to look for more ideas about this topic, which is the cheese in general.
Yeah, so you brought up a lot of things. I'm going to ask Dave through it, but just so that we come back to it. One, the focus on cheese. I think there's more we could talk about there. The operations piece about like the seasonality of the business and what that means. And also really identifying those customers of today and tomorrow, right? But Dave, what are your
Yeah, I always get excited about these like marketing type things, and I think what's interesting here, well, just a couple of things, right? I think one, that idea of progress over perfection, right? You mentioned that you didn't feel comfortable, you didn't do it, but we find a lot of small business owners, I think, similar to you, in terms of just like, not really marketers, right? But they know they need to do something to get the word out, and I think it's in that process of doing something. We've seen those that are successful will actually do the things and then learn from what they're doing. And I think this is exactly what you're doing, right? And I think that's interesting because I have to imagine, right, that that first video you posted is light years away from the types of videos that you post now, at least in terms of how you feel about them. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
I think that's a big thing. Like I often talk about this idea of like, I think in many ways we used to call it kind of content marketing, but I think content is what really drives all of our marketing today. And so you're creating something and you're doing something. And I think there's this idea of really waiting for it to be right or not doing something because you don't feel that it's right. A mistake made it happen, right? Which got you all of these followers, which then now you've actually got something to work with and learn from, even though it may not have given you direct business from that necessarily. If you're not taking action and doing something and then learning from that, you're missing out on the benefit you would still get from all of the mistakes that you made. Right. And I
Mhm.
think that's a huge lesson for people just to hear, because we're coming up on the third year of this podcast. It's won some awards. It's done some good things for us in terms of what we've done, but I wasn't happy with it when we started it, right? It started at a place and then we kept making changes and doing things, but I would have missed out on all of the, showing up and the repetitions to get to the place where it is, where I feel like, okay, I feel like we've got a good quality product today. Right. And so I think there's something similar there to that. I'm also wondering, just in terms of, you mentioned it wasn't your audience necessarily that were following you, and which is rightly so. But I have to imagine too, there's also a group of people that are connecting with you that could potentially vacation, and now at least they know about your shop, right? Like, how do you think through that? Like, what do you think the benefit of doing that stuff is now, maybe compared to when you started?
I just want to say I'm one of those people.
There you go, right?
The first thing you have to do is to jump to the pole. You have to stop thinking about what to do and do it directly. Try new things, try different things. Because one of the things that I realized from the beginning is that everything that I thought that that it was going to be successful, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And everything that I was just messing around, that thinking that it was okay, I'm going to upload this, I'll post this because I have to post something, or I don't feel really comfortable with this content, but I have to do something about it because it was something that it shocked me in the beginning, but I don't know how to say it. Just say it, because maybe by saying it, you go to people that they didn't expect it, or maybe they are surprised by it, or maybe they feel that they can take advantage of it, or just they are just directly interested in it. And you realize that it is more successful than everything else that you've been planning for months, years, something like that, that you thought it was going to be very, very successful, and it wasn't, just because your perspective, maybe it's not the right perspective, and maybe you had an idea and it was completely different.
especially like that it is your mistake that got the attention that then, motivated you to keep doing more. I think that's very telling. It's not the perfection. It is actually the times when we mess up that can actually be beneficial.
I think that's the big thing with social in particular, is that we want to connect with people. And when you're trying to be very precise and very specific in a way, that takes away from the organicness and the authenticity that you feel when someone's just being themselves and doing their thing. That idea of just like transferring that energy and that the excitement that you have about something and that passion you have about something, that's what sales is at the end of the day, right? Like sharing that with someone else and they feel that energy coming from you. You can almost polish it too much where you lose all of that enthusiasm that makes it special.
One of the most important things that it is just to be natural, to share your passion, to share what makes you excited about what you work for or what you try to sell. And also not thinking about saying it in a different way or doing something special for that occasion. No, it's just be natural, be yourself, and do it in the same way you would do it every day of your life.
And I think one thing that, we could drill down to a little bit is the context around why and how you found an approach that works. B2B marketing can be very different from B2C. And like you said, you all sell many different types of products, but you focused on cheese. And that was basically based on the reaction, the feedback that you got from people. And you also have this long history of being part of this family business. And there's a lot of advice out there about just do it and just be yourself. And it's not necessarily wrong, but there's also all these other specifics, or there's also all this other context about why something may work for one person or one business may not exactly work for somebody else or in another business.
What I realized about social media in these many years is that even though you take ideas from other people, other accounts, or other content creators that are very successful on their own areas and so on, you can't copy them. Because as you said, they have their own style, their own audience, their own way to do things in general. If you try to copy that, people are going to notice it. As simple as that. And if you notice that someone is not genuine, that someone is trying to kind of fake something, you don't connect with that. And for social media and content creation, you really need to connect through the screen, which is something not very easy to do in general. So I think being natural, being yourself, you have to be very consistent on it, because with one video you can get viral, but that isn't going to be a business. If you are trying to build a business, you need to be consistent. You need to be not viral, but you need to have your audience in a daily basis or in a weekly basis, instead of trying to get one video viral and nothing else. So as you're looking for that consistency, you need to be yourself to find that audience that really relies on you through the screen.
You mentioned something earlier that I think is important to bring up, because you talked about that idea of choosing one channel that you're comfortable with. And I think that's a big thing, right? Because we often talk about it's those two things together, right? Focusing on one thing so you can learn the ins and outs of that channel and understanding what that does and using it to the best of your ability, because all of the channels really have their own personalities, and one thing that works someplace may not work in another. And if you try to do everything all at once, you end up spinning your wheels and not actually making any headway with what you're trying to do. But I think the other piece of that is sticking to that idea of where you're comfortable, right? We don't talk about that enough. We always talk about that idea where you got to go where your audience is. Yes, you do. But if you go someplace where you're not comfortable being, you're never going to want to do the work that you need to do, to your point of being consistent and showing up there. And so you have to find a thing that you're comfortable doing so that you can be consistent, right? And I think that's the big problem that we run into, because like, I think all of these things do add up to, over time, you're doing these things and keeping your business top of mind, so that when they are ready, or they're going to be in your area, or somebody asks them about something, like you're the business that comes up and they think about you first. And so it's about, how do you stay engaged with these people so that when they are ready, they think of you? And I think that you bring up some good points in that and examples of that.
Mhm. Yeah, there is something related to that I didn't say, and I think it's very important, which is that all the social media, all the different social media has a different style. For example, if you're comfortable on Instagram, maybe Twitter, well, nowadays X, is a completely different world. Maybe what you upload on Instagram doesn't work at all on Twitter, and also on Facebook or on TikTok, something like that. So if you feel comfortable, if your content really works on Instagram, don't expect the same success on all the platforms. You really need to feel comfortable with that and to find your style on that social media, and then trying to replicate the same on the other ones with maybe a little bit different comment, a different description, a different way to reply their comments, something like that. But all of them are different, even though they look the same.
One thing I want to hone in on before we transition to off the record is the necessity of first being uncomfortable before you're comfortable. So if you are a small business owner who's not doing digital marketing, or you're just getting started with it, more likely than not, it will be very uncomfortable. And that's an essential part of the process.